Mountaineers' big day yesterday was characterized by some humongous wins as a never two without any stakes cred named Zenau just destroyed the West Virginia Derby field to the tune of some 6 odd lengths. But more importantly, and more significant moving forward, Bracket Buster, the day's marquee horse, just annihilated a decent field in the Governor Stakes by some 15 lengths, an historic margin for that kind of event at Mountaineer. I am skeptical a wide margin wins, although we will certainly watch Bracket Buster moving forward. It looked huge visually. Can't wait to see what the figure comes back as. But it might be time to reflect on some things we should consider when we assess big wide margin wins that aren't always quite what they seem. Sometimes they're exactly what they seem, and the best horse just mauls the competition and runs lights out. More oftenly, those big margins come from a lack of competition, not much depth in the field. And sometimes there's yet another reason. The field did contain depth going in, but nobody else fired, just the big winner. And yet another possible explanation for horses that leave the field and win by polls and stuff like that is the crowd roars, the announcer just lays on the superlatives in deep stretch, is it can be the product of some kind of a bias or very favorable circumstances. Nonetheless, got to watch Bracket Buster very closely moving forward. I always felt the day after the West Virginia Derby when I was working at Mountaineer, like the circus just left town and it was raining all over the circus grounds, and I'm sitting there getting wet. And in fact, it did rain very hard this afternoon. So Mountaineers off turf. But still, even after the big day, a lot of eyes are going to be on the place the action peaks tonight as a reputed continuation, an alleged continuation of yesterday's infamous Fair Hill 5 is to go postward in race number 2 tonight. And Kiros, the guy who conditioned a couple of those infamous winners yesterday, is a former trainer on Bravo Rough. And like the Fair Hill 5 yesterday, Bravo Rough has been away from the races and has been training at Fair Hill. So watch out. And reportedly, and this stuff is just rumor, and I can't confirm it, reportedly, this horse is part of some kind of a parlay or a huge bet made through the London books. So can't wait to see what Bravo Rough does in the night's second race. I can tell you this. I don't think it'll be a walkover because he could well have his hands full. And then some with Fiction, the Jamie Poole runner, who's, I think, prime for bear in there to show a lot of speed, but attempt to wire it. So really intrigued about tonight's second race. Welcome to I'm Mark Patterson. I worked in the industry for a long time, and now I work for myself here on the YouTube channel, and you are in the dungeon. So it is about 10 minutes to post, I see. And let's take a look at the opener. Yeah, there was another huge winner yesterday, too, in a 1 3/4 race, but you kind of have to disregard those because, as I said before that race yesterday, excuse me, while I clean my glasses off, nothing seems to work except this little cloth that my wife got with her bifocals. But as I said before that marathon race, don't get too carried away. Slow your Mustangs down when somebody apparently leaves the field in a 1.5 lap race or a 2-lap race, because if one horse is feeling it and the others aren't, it can get really ugly and is not always reflective of that runner's day in, day out, race in, race out superiority. I'm a skeptic, though. I'm a cynic when it comes to those 10, 20, 30 length wins. I live to bet against them when those horses run back. And you got to dig down and try and figure out why it happened. First race, 6 furlongs. This is not a great start to the card, but we can score on this as easily as we can, a high-class field. In fact, these kind of races are my specialty. My motto in the dungeon was going to be, and I think it still is to some extent, no horse race too low, because I made my bones putting races like this together as racing secretary / assistant racing secretary, doing odds on them, and then finally going on TV and breaking them down for the public. So I dig this kind of action. And this is as low as you can go, $3,200 claiming price. And we're talking about horses that haven't won since the outset of 2025. Standard American racing distance, 6 furlongs here. You were awesome. It's kind of a sore spot with me because this is the only miss I've made from dozens and dozens and dozens of cherry picks on the Mountaineer Morning Line price points. I took issue with You Were Awesome being listed last time at 3-1 or 5-2 or something like that. I was just chuckling to myself and thinking he's got to be higher than that because he's not going to win. And he was 80 to 1 in his previous race. But I was mistaken. He did take support there at 5 to 2. And if it was bad, it wasn't that bad. I loved Crafty Conquest and cashed quite a bit on him as lone speed to go gate the wire there. You Were Awesome is over 26 over the mountain main. And hopefully the crowd won't reprise their mistake of last time and bet on You Were Awesome again, who on top of it all is going to take some kickback here from the one post on a main track that I assume is going to be sloppy with Mountaineer certainly off the turf. Number 2, Irish Heat Wave. And I'm going to slip on over there and check the track condition out right now, even as we speak, guys. It's got to be sloppy because we had torrential rains. Late this morning? Yeah, we did. So I'm going to have to take a second and pull this up. My wagering platform while I keep talking. Irish Heat Wave was third last time in the aforementioned Crafty Conquest race. Now, Crafty Conquest is a horse with some grit and some speed, and he was the lone speed in there, but he was coming back to his field. He wasn't sexy and almost fumbled what should have been an easy layup for him. Irish Heat Wave was running on a little bit at the end, but didn't pass anybody. Not much will it take to win this one. He's made like $400,000, but very little of that on conventional dirt. He's a turf creature, so it looks pretty ominous to me that he couldn't compete, even on the grass here, against a couple of questionable fields, Irish Heat Wave. So this is the last resort when a horse is bought to come here and compete on turf, and he can't do it, even with a grass record. So to get him in lower and to capitalize on the softest possible conditions, they have to go over to dirt. And that's what's being done with Irish Heat Wave here, who was a one-time winner on dirt, and it wasn't in the slop. Number 3, Body Slam. Now we're getting warmer. When I start thinking about potential winners and who I might consider betting on, and Body Slam. It's been a while since he won, and he's not too durable because he only started 4 times last year and 3 times so far this year. Body Slam. But his second start back off the bench kind of impressed me there. His Body Slam was in a race that had some other speed. In fact, I think there was a 4.5 furlong Charlestown speed drawn to his outside in the gate, and Body Slam did not come away that well. But went out, made the lead, opened the lead at the furlong grounds, and the fractions were the meat of that race. They were the fastest part of that race, no question about it. And the race was taken by late movers, Mainline Cypher and Loyal Clement. And I think there was a non-4 life. I don't want to get too technical too early for you guys, but there was a non-4 life clause on that condition as well, which made it a lot higher bar than the straight up non-winners in 25-26 is. So Body Slam was in tougher 2 back and then returns at 5.5 furlongs. And you don't see speed as a consistent theme on his form. So that's a knock on Body Slam after you watched him blow a 4-length lead and lose 8 lengths through the home stretch a couple of starts back. And he is not a 6 furlong creature, by the way. I'm pretty sure that each of his career victories has come at 4.5 furlongs. So if you like him and things go the right way, hold your breath because it ain't over until it's over. And a 6 furlong race for Body Slam. But he couldn't accelerate early and preserve the one post in a shorter race than this at 5.5. He did amp his buyer up a little bit for a barn that's sneaky tough and a little bit underrated, I think, and a barn that's seen their stock come around a little bit the last couple of weeks. So you move him back out to 6 furlongs here. And I would not be surprised to see Body Slam go out there and get the lead and maybe carry the lead, an open lead for home here in his 4th start of the season. So I think he's definitely a contender, very strong contender here, is Body Slam. Moving Pictures is 9 to 1 there. The Cliff Notes, sometimes you don't dig too deeply into their poor efforts. A horse is what a horse is, but you look at what it takes for them to run well. And Moving Pictures is a horse that just kind of goes out there in contact with the pace and proceeds at 1 even gear. And it's not a very competitive gear. He's only 2 for 37. I'm not sure that he should get the lead threat here, even though the race does suffer from an absence of early speed. Tappan Royalty, number 5. I'm not sure there's life after Franklin Smith. He's kind of a clever South Carolina-based horseman. And I wrote Tappan Royalty off after he exited the Franklin Smith digs, and I have not had cause to regret it to this point. Rescue 5, number 6, the West Virginia bred, who's made a lot of money, man, and used to be a good horse. Now, it is 10 years since he has tasted sweet victory. I mean, years and years and years since he has tasted sweet victory. This 10-time winner, Rescue 5, but he's back on his game, whatever game he has left at the advanced stage of 11. And last time he was on the chase of Crafty Conquest. There was a controlling speed there. Those weren't real rapid fractions, especially the opening stanza. So I've got a feeling Body Slam's going to own him at some point to the mid stages. I think the question might be, can Body Slam continue that to the wire? But if you have a different outlook on the pace scenario here and don't trust Body Slam as a one-time only displayer of early speed, then perhaps you see Rescue 5 in control of his own destiny out there, and he's converted those kind of soft spots before in his history. Has Rescue 5. This barn, man, has not won a race since I can't remember. I really can't remember the last time this barn actually won a race. Johnny Quest on the outside, maybe named for Johnny Quest, the old TV show. Was that claymation, Johnny Quest? It was cheesy, kind of like Davy and Goliath. Gee, Davy, do you think that was right for you to steal little Sally's cookie? I really used to dig that show. We'll pull it up even now on YouTube if I could. But yeah, Johnny Quest. I can recall when my brother received a Johnny Quest action figure for Christmas and was delighted to dress little Johnny up day after day after day. But that's okay, because I had G.I. Joes, which are really dolls for boys, right? Had me some Joes back when they had the plastic hair, before they even stuck any fuzz on top of their pates. And I would fill the bathtub and have them on bivouac and on missions across some kind of a moat and stuff like that. And I kept the Joes really active until at some point they got their arms ripped off, or their hands ripped off, or they lost their shirts and had to strut around bare-chested, my G.I. Joes. So we were at 2 minutes to post, and let's check out the daily double wheel pace here and see just how hard the public is going in. Part of that Fair Hill 5 alleged coup yesterday was one of the winners paid $37, and another one in the second part of the same double paid $12, and the double only paid like $25. Boy, you talk about a red flag or 10. So anyways, let's see just how low those doubles are to Bravo Rough in the second race, as opposed to Fiction, who I think is going to run big in his own right there. So let's check out the combinations from, let's say, the Clouston horse in the first race, taken to numbers 4 and number 10. The alleged coup horse in race number 2. I'm going to check the daily double wheel pace right now. Not available on my platform. The wheel pace are either not available for this race or have not been posted yet. Well, isn't that interesting? Isn't that just special? Because I really want to see the daily double action on Bravo Rough in the second race, who I don't know if anything's up at all. And I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything in advance, but does bear a lot of the same form traits, same characteristics as did the Fair Hill 5 yesterday. And there are rumors, scandalous rumors all over the internet that this horse is part of a parlay wager of some sort that could cost the overseas books a fortune if he is to win. They had another one in with the same characteristics, the same former trainer that was involved yesterday in the alleged coup. And that one was scratched at Presque Isle from race number 8 today. Today, guys, was scratched at Presque Isle. So I don't want to waste too much time looking for these daily double wheel pays. Here we go. Daily double wheel pays. Now we're cooking. Let's check out the 2-4 and the 2-10. The 2-4 is $37 and the 2-10 is $18. So yeah, that horse is going to be heavily chalked in race number 2, I think. Although not quite to the extent that I might have expected, guys, as far as the 4-horse in the second race. Yeah, those are definitely higher. So we shall see what we shall see. I'm contemplating a wager on Body Slam, but at 2-1, given that speed is not exactly a consistent theme on his form, I don't know if I want to take 2-1 on this horse. Guys, I think that was just a somebody had to win it race. I had a feeling Body Slam was going to do some ignorant shit like that at the break, and that's exactly what happened. Body Slam eliminated himself right from the jump. You can't count on Rescue 5 at 11 years old. Irish Heat Waves, a turf horse who didn't run very well on his native grass when he hit done after being purchased and imported here to run on the lawn. So you get a tap in royalty. And again, what had to be is somebody had to win it race. As I like to say, put them all on your permanent pay no attention list moving forward. Seriously doubt that's going to be any kind of a key race. Second race is the one a lot of people have shown up for. It's a mile, maiden special. It's on dirt because it is off the grass. It is off the grass. And 1 to 5 or 1 to 9 on Bravo Rough. So they've outed themselves early here on Bravo Rough, who reportedly, allegedly, a continuation of yesterday's infamous Fairhill 5. You got the same former trainer that was a current trainer in a couple of those winners yesterday on Hill Kiros. And you have another horse who's been away from the races and who's been training at Fairhill. And beyond that, a lot of rumors all over horse racing Twitter that somebody got down big on this horse as part of a continuation bet tied to the Fairhill 5. That would stick to bookies. You got to love this. For millions of dollars, the scurrilous rumors have it. So I'm going to be watching with avid interest. They haven't camouflaged this horse too much. So his only usefulness would be as part of some kind of a parlay because he was always going to get bet here. Bravo Rough, I know he's never been on dirt, but he was second in 2 of his last 3. One of them a maiden special weight race at Gulfstream Park on synthetics. He was 49 to 1 at his next, I guess, a bona fide maiden optional claim, but it was just too tough for him. Bravo Rough. This was shortly after turning 3, so he put up a couple of decent speed figures as a 2-year-old. Bravo Rough. So he's never been on dirt, but I guess you wouldn't make him part of a parlay betting coup of the century if he hadn't been training pretty well on this stuff, huh? At Fairhill, Bravo Rough. How many scratches here? How many notches closer to the rail for this horse who's never been on dirt? He's never run on dirt. So do we have to share their reported confidence? The shadowy behind-the-scenes connections, their reported confidence in this horse? Do we really have to? I don't know. He's never run on dirt. And now I notice that Bravo Rough has been scratched. Bravo Rough is scratched. Is this a late scratch? It's got to be, right? Or was he scratched earlier when the race came off the turf? Tough to say. He was not removed earlier, but sometimes these things get lost in translation. And there's a disconnect sometimes between the word getting to the stewards at all and the stewards putting the word out and these off-turf scratches in cases like this. I think they have up until 45 minutes to post a scratch, but this horse was bet on in the daily double pool for sure. So I think you're talking about a consolation because it was part of the betting, right? Yeah, a late scratch, huh? Somebody in the comments, get with me and help me out here. At what point was this horse scratched? Late scratch, very late scratch. And there was a daily double will pay, huh? So I wonder what's going on here. Might be an off-turf scratch. Maybe they got cold feet. I was going to bet Fiction to beat the big boy anyway. Spoiler alert. Fiction doesn't have to take on continuation, part due of the betting coup, does he? Fiction showed some ability to be third at Woodbine, second time to the post for a decent number, and then comes off the, year-and-a-half layup to run second. And that race was distinguished by some rapid fractions, by maiden standards. They were flying out there. And Fiction was on terms with a horse named Cowboy Roy, who came back to just crank on a 5 furlong field, a Marshall Godsey charge with 10 tons of speed. Cowboy Roy. And the winner of that had already recorded, believe it or not, like a buyer in the low 70s at Mahoning over the cold weather months, and Fiction goes out and fights and ends up second. I have no idea why he was in it 2 turns on the turf next time when seemingly a 6 furlong maiden race on dirt would seemingly be at his mercy, Fiction, but they had to try something cute with him and get him over on the grass, and pretty tough to route with just a 1 sprint race under a horse's belt, and Fiction just could not hold up. Maybe didn't like the grass that much. Had lost by 17 in his only previous outing on the turf, and maybe the distance was a bridge too far. But when you take the big horse out of here, Bravo Rough on the outside, then his job becomes a lot easier, Fiction. And I was bullish to bet him anyways, to rain on that betting parade. I really was. Not a walkover for Fiction, who's going to be heavily bet now, obviously. Turn Him Loose, number 9, was at Belterra last time and ran second. Interestingly enough, the time before pulled and was rank on June the 13th. Didn't want to rate, I guess. Must have been more rateable on July 7th because he indulged a 25-3 opening quarter there. Did Turn Him Loose. He only had 2 opponents. One of them, for what it's worth, was a Doug Cowan's horse who had already been second a couple of times and might be a nice horse. I don't know. The speed fig qualifies him to compete here. Turn Him Loose. But I don't like his chances to take on Fiction, who I think is going to control him right from the get-go. I don't think you're going to see any 25 and change quarters in here from Fiction against Turn Him Loose. And Fiction now with a route race under his belt and a bounce race presumably out of the way. Sound enough to get back to the races in about 2 weeks here. So I'm less worried than I was about that year and a half away from the game there that preceded his local arrival there. So again, the story is Bravo Rough is scratched. But at what point was he scratched? So somebody is in my comments and said vet scratch. Somebody said vet scratch there. Was originally 1-9 and now a late scratch. Okay, well, that's a large part of the story here, but we got to move on, I guess, huh? And look at the rest of the field. Super Justify, one of those horses Ramjeet's run against winners, is a maiden. And I've seen him do this before. This horse is 0-for-17 and was eased, virtually eased. And it's not like they weren't trying in that race against winners. I was second at a round of ground, but again, he was up close to a pace. There's nothing like Fiction is likely to throw him in here. And they are still in the paddock and late scratch on Bravo Rough. Robert Lee, the 5 is 9-2 and well supported here. I guess they shelled out $13,000 for him at auction. That is not normally the kind of expenditure we would see from this outfit that has some bad horses. Occasionally wins with them like $100 mutual, like once every couple of years to cover their nut. Must not have liked what they received there because he was thrown right into a claiming race for similar money, and the claim was avoided, and that's ominous. That's not a good sign. This horse was away from February until April, a couple of months, and now away again until August. And this horse doesn't fit any winning pattern I've ever seen from this barn. But again, wins like once every 2 years with some kind of a humongous long shot. Broken Sound on the inside, 7-2. Broken Sound has been the beaten chalk twice in a row now. Those were both on grass. His dirt race wasn't bad too. I think a 1-9 lone speed and finding Candy there. So he's qualified to compete. I'm not sure his performances are as sexy as you may well see from the 4-horse Fiction, or could see from the second favorite either. Number 9, Turn Him Loose. Distinguished Gent, 7-1. Goes from turf to dirt, but was sold in the wake of a second place finish and then put on the sidelines. And it does not seem like this horse is any big fan of conventional dirt. Does have some speed, though, that he could bring to complicate this party. Back in a minute. Oh, yeah, in the comment section, I am aware the horse was slated to run and late scratched. I'm going to repeat that one more time. I am aware the horse was slated to run and then an 11th hour scratch after the win pool had opened and the horse was 1-9. So, what is your issue? Okay, we are 0 minutes to post here and 8-5 on a horse that I would have received a much bigger price on had he squared off with the now defected Bravo Rough in race number 2 here. So that price could even plummet a little bit more, I think, although it's no walkover. Certainly by off-turf standards for number 4 Fiction, as the 9 horse could show up with a good ship and effort. Distinguished Gent has got speed and a decent racer to at larger venues, albeit on turf. And then Robert Lee was a $13,000 auction purchase. I think on the heels of those fairgrounds buyers, but looks like they took a shot when they purchased him, and the claim was voided. And now he pops up in Mountaineer and fits no pattern I've seen for a win from this outfit. So I'm going to slip on over and watch the price and consider a bet on the 4 horse, although I think the odds are going to dip down on him. This stuff, I swear, could only happen in Mountaineer. You had a horse that was 1 to 100 or man of war odds from 1917. And Isolate Scratch there was rumored to be part of a wagering coup, so he doesn't run, and a 30 to 1 shot wins it. A 30 to 1 shot wins it, I kid you not. You can't make this stuff up. A horse that was East last time, Super Justified, comes in start number 18, all kinds of $4,000 beats and maiden races on the page, and not a bad field by off-turf standards. And here comes Super Justified. Again, you can't make this stuff up. I think Scott Roberts, whose comment I posted here, might be part of some even more sinister, clever wagering coup. I figured something was afoot, so took the board of the pick 4, obviously hoping for a scratch, and then that the favorite loses, because then all that money's up for grabs that was put into the 1 to 9 late scratch. You can't make this stuff up, guys. Never a dull moment at the place, colloquially referred to as the Mountain. Love to know who scratched the horse and what the reason was. It might be as simple as off turf. They may have gotten cold feet. Maybe the bookies threatened to put him to sleep with the fishies. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe it was never likely after yesterday's ignominious occurrences that this was going to be day 2 of the same coup. I don't know. I will try and find out what the reason for the scratch was and who initiated it. There can be a whole slew of reasons for Stewart scratches, guys. Somebody should make a movie. They will make a movie about yesterday. There should be at least a short film about this race from the Mountain. Third race is 5 furlongs on dirt. It was supposed to be 5 furlongs on turf. That's not going to happen. And the one-horse Ticket to Paradise is open the lead a couple of times at 4.5. Normally those kind come to the Mountain and off-turf races that are going to go 5 furlongs and just romp. But I don't like the speed figs. And this horse is up in class from the bottom at Charlestown. This trainer also has purchased this horse since the last race, which could be a negative. You don't have the Kevin Joy brand at work here at all. Looks like Silva is holding all the aces here. Cascabel, number 3, Cascabel. The one win was dirt, and this horse was second on dirt last year to Sock It To Me. The old expression, Goldie Hawn from the, I think they even got to Richard Nixon to recite that line on camera, right? He was a good sport, I guess, about that. Boy, they did sock it to him too, didn't they? Yeah, Sock It To Me was an Anthony Stephen horse, I think, with some upside, who may have gone on to win an allowance in Austin Town. So Cascabel can do the dirt thing. Cascabel has got plenty of speed. And I pulled up the video on this horse's return race this afternoon, and Cascabel was back on his heels after getting bumped early and then steadied and was ridden tentatively until halfway around the turn. So that race is better than it looks and should set him up nicely for this. Now, here's the part that kind of puzzles me. Halder rode this horse last time and also rode One Step Beyond on the outside and pops up here on Cascabel. Normally, Silva would not give a bug rider or his agent the choice of mounts in a case like that. I can tell you Juan Pablo would dictate which horse the kid's going to ride. Silva's other horse looks like a potential handful as well. One Step Beyond to won at Santa Anita. Speed fought to do that, and then went to Prescott to run on synthetics. You know, Juan Pablo liked this horse a little bit because he never goes to Prescott to run. Wanted to try for a bigger purse. This horse does not seem to be in love with turf or synthetics. Had 1 start's worth of experimentation on both those alternative footings. Didn't work out. So he's second here on dirt on July the 7th. He is speed fighting. You know what? I like his next race even more. I know he dropped down in class to the 15,000, but I'm not sure Rhodes really showed up all that big. On July the 7th, they're coming in for Charlie Williams from Thistledown. But on July the 21st, I know there was some speed in the race. There was a quick forward 2 there and against One Step Beyond. And more importantly, One Step Beyond was pinned down along the rail on a night that I don't just think was dead rail. I think it was almost the wider the better track. So I think One Step Beyond had by far the worst of it last time. And the post, I think, gives the jock a little more latitude than maybe a halter has on the stablemate Cascabel, is how I might see that. I'm not sure we can make much of a case for anybody else in here. It is 4 minutes to post, and we're going to field of 5. We're going to field of just 5 here. I'm not big at all on Ticket to Paradise. Vindicato, the 5 broke maiden on dirt. This is the same outfit that sends out Ticket to Paradise, and this outfit is on the Schneid from 7, sent to the post. This horse has been away since March of 2024. Get out of here. A Roaring Rapids. I say stablemate Cascabel. This is technically, I think, Silva's brother who was down as trainer here on Cascabel. She got 3 Silvas in her, Cascabel and One Step Beyond, and then Roaring Rapids. Roaring Rapids has been a bust here so far on turf and should have closed stoutly, I think, on July 26th. Red flag that he didn't. And then if you want a sample of his off-turf wares, and it wasn't a slop just like tonight, he was fatigued well before traveling 6 furlongs there on August the 2nd. So entered back in 8 days to get him off dirt and back on turf, and that was not to happen. And the crowd is decisive right now. One Step Beyond, they like more than they do Cascabel. I think Cascabel's stock goes up if Cascabel, who's got to turn a foot and was compromised at the break last time, is able to outfoot Ticket to Paradise for early command. That could make him just a big time player here. Got a West Virginia bred race later on tonight that has been scratched to pieces. That's the norm for those kind of races, guys. Still, a pretty good field of 4 in the night's 7th race, which I guess passes for the feature. Abundant Energy, who had a 3-race win streak broken and a 4-race local streak last time by Zealous Storm, won't have to face Zealous Storm tonight because Zealous has been scratched out of there. Heroes Man, the gallant 10-year-old of 400,000 in earnings and 16 scores. I don't think he's capable of open allowance competition, even against his fellow West Virginia breds. Heroes Man. And then you've got Old Out of Sense, the old campaigner with 57 times in the money and a big bankroll. It seems like he goes at one pace these days, though. It just doesn't sustain his move. Might be feeling Father Time a little bit there. And You Bet a Fortune, his first foray in versus West Virginia breds in quite some time. And I would bet money at some point he's going to handle Heroes Man. But at what point and with how much difficulty might be the big question, the burning question in the night's 7th race there. As we're coming towards the track, so I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, Jose Luna Silva is definitely related to Juan Pablo for sure. And this is a common ploy when one outfit wants to run 3 in the same race. They're allowed to run 2, so they flip another horse over to a different conditioner. It's happened a lot of times over the years. Happened a lot of times on my watch. I try to discourage that kind of activity. But you can't really straight up tell him not to do this and not to enter. If I caught wind of it before entry's closed, I would call him up and ask him not to do it because it's a bad look. But it is a common deployment of thoroughbred forces. Did I state that euphemistically enough? When a trainer wants to run 3 in the same race, which you can't in Mountaineer. And so flips one of them over to the name of another conditioner. Should we figure that since Cascabel is the one that Juan Pablo flipped over into somebody else's name, that he likes One Step Beyond better? Well, the public doesn't, as the money just came on Cascabel in a big way. No reason to assume any kind of a bias at this early juncture. It seems like when the track is sloppy, it's kind of potluck. You got to wait and see how it plays as far as the weather patterns go. And the latter part of this summer has been so disappointing here in this region. I like hot droughts because I can be strong off the tee when I play golf, but I hit kind of a low ball and a draw, and I need the rollage. I need it to roll. My drives to roll out. I'm an anti-water guy. I hate that my physical body is made up like 99% of H2O. I don't like the taste of water. It messes with my gut because of the minerals. And I just do not like rain. Don't like water. And it's been kind of a watery summer, the latter part of it anyways, around here, whereas normally this is about the time a drought would be just settling in real solid for the month of August. I don't think Cascabel is 4-5 to beat Barnmate One Step Beyond. I don't know if this is inside info or not, but Silva's got a loyal following. I don't know if they get the word from their leader or not, or where they bet from. So much of the buzz is so entertaining in the aftermath of the Fairhill 5 yesterday. It's like horse players are jumping all over themselves to issue condemnation. Will I double condemn them? Will I triple condemn them? Or you don't condemn them enough. It won't be long before horse players, from what I know of them, are blaming each other as much as they're blaming the perpetrators of this wagering coup. That's after a rightful amount of the blame lands on Heisa, who might end up the real villains here. We shall see. If they fail to launch and administer the proper investigation, Heisa could end up the villains. Let's give a chance, though, and see what they come up with. So Cynical Steve in the comment section said, I'm not betting. Silva can choose who he wants to win. I'll probably get the trifecta. Well, he got the exacta for sure. I'm not sure there was much choosing which of the Silva horses was well meant there, but I will say this much. One Step Beyond's got more natural speed than he was encouraged to show there. That is sort of Leon's style, though. Sits chilly, very chilly on a horse and tries to finish. That's how he envisions himself as a strong finishing jockey, but he's set motionless on One Step Beyond there through the early stages. He's going to lose to Cascabel anyways there, I think. Cascabel was doped out correctly by the money, either on the go-ahead from Juan Pablo or maybe the CAW, notorious computer guys, just found that on their own. I didn't see that much difference between the two horses. Maybe Cascabel was the slightly likelier winner, and maybe Halder being on board that one. Although Silva does continue to assign live mounts to the low percentage Leon, maybe Halder's presence on that one instead of the horse that he rode last time was the tell. Whatever the case, One Step Beyond is grinding into that one, and Cascabel's a pretty good finisher, but you could have put a ring around Cascabel on your program once he had the one horse by the throat relatively early on there. And the 8 horse didn't exactly get a full-out send there, which is, that's fair dinkum, as they say in Australia, to coordinate strategies between two different horses. It really is, and you're talking about the same stable there. I mean, come on. I'm just going to straight out say it, It's not race fixing. It's just a coordination of strategies. They're not going to send them both and run each other into the ground. Let's just say the best horse won. We're coming up on a maiden 5/8 now. I can't remember if this one was supposed to be on the grass. I think it was, right? Yeah, 15,000 claimers, 5/8. And you've got several in here that have been finishing on the ticket, to Crime Lord. But Crime Lord was behind Briarcliff last time. And I think Briarcliff was a lower price there. And they both came from behind the pace in a race dominated in front-running fashion by the absolute standout Cowboy Roy there. So those horses get away from Roy, and they can do better in here, I would say. Crime Lord, though, is certainly been a disappointment since popping in here from out Delmar way. Was well beaten at 1-2 first time over the track. And this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth because that's a bad horse. The Trounstead field with slow fractions and slow final time and didn't exactly tip off much upside for Crime Lord, who at least got the lead and got the lead once at Santa Anita on grass and finished 4th once on grass at Delmar. So they're still trying to get him over on turf. So they don't like this horse on dirt much, I don't think, huh? Faz on the inside. Faz, this is his first time on dirt, and he's got speed, but it's 2-turn speed on synthetics, So he's highly likely to get outfooted here, I would say. Number 5, Springs. This guy, Alejandro Murillo Rodriguez, I used to see him bowed in with some long shots in Ohio, but he hadn't been real active this year. And I guess he got this horse from Silva. And it seems like whenever they buy a maiden or get their hands on a maiden, a new outfit, they get so high on the horse. This runner was all the way down to $5,000 and got his head handed to him. But first start back, $25,000 there for Springs, I guess because they wanted this guy in the grass. So here's another horse they want to run on turf if at all possible. If you want to look back, he was second to Losal on dirt there and now has a race under his belt, Springs. Forever Valiant is almost certainly going to get the lead here, and that's more than half the battle at 5/8 in an off-turf race in the slop. Forever Valiant was not exactly a stone-cold quitter at Indy because he speed fights and ends up 4th, second time to the post, and then works a little to get the lead and holds his own down the lane to run second at Indy last July. Now, he was outfooted his first 2 starts at Mountaineer, which kind of belies the snappy speed he showed in those Indy sprints last year. He was back on his speed game last time and gets run over by a first-time starter of indeterminate quality. I don't like the way he folded, but I think he might have a hard time folding to this field. And how's he not going to lead this field? By a clear margin. Jason Ullman used to run all those Michigan breds here, correct? And the focus was always on early speed. And sometimes he would run the same horses year after year after year, and he would do those horses justice, believe me, with Jason Ullman. That was kind of his MO. Is it raining? again now we're in the inside paddock. Weren't we in the outside paddock a little bit earlier? Yeah, I think we were. A mark of greatness is a single odds up there. I don't think so. That was a really bad field of West Virginia breds last time that found him off the ticket. He's over 17, so he is the quote unquote professional maiden in this crew, right? And on the outside, you got Briarcliff. Didn't Ramjeets win already once tonight with a horse at 30-1? And race number 2 that had just run against winners as a maiden? Briarcliff was in twice against winners. I think that the idea was to cut a lively pace and set it up for his barn-mate Semper Atticus back on June the 29th there. Briarcliff's got plenty of route speed, came back, and if he was employed as a pace setter again, did his rabbit job to the hilt. So when they cut him back and I guess make a serious attempt last time, he is second to, I think, a really short-priced favorite, a horse who couldn't lose, Cowboy Roy, and didn't do badly. Sometimes a front-running route horse can show a little heart, a little bit of finish in a 5H race, not just because of the reduced distance, but because of the complexion of the competition. You get a lot of quitters in a race like this, and it can make a horse like Briarcliff a lot stronger than he is at a distance of ground. That was a clunk up second, though. And from the looks of that, and we've got to judge his speed off that outing, I would say, he may not be able to sit close enough to reach out and touch Forever Valiant here in deep stretch. Yet he is 6-5, and next to Vasquez, I would say, next to Juan Vasquez, Ramjeets have one of the hotter outfits on the grounds right now. They've been on a good roll for a couple of weeks now, in fact, and have a 30-1 winner under their belt already tonight. I used to wonder if a wagering system could be fashioned largely based on which conditioners, especially obscure conditioners or ship-in conditioners, want to race earlier on the card, because it just always amazes me how often the same barn that won a race earlier on the program comes back to double up. You know, my dad was all over that decades ago, like in the 1970s, and I thought I knew it all, and he had nothing to teach me. And he used to tell me, Marky, when one of a guy's horses runs good, they're all going to run good. And I used to think, yeah, Dad, okay, whatever, Dad. Let me concentrate here on the form. Because I took over the family role as handicapper when I was like 12 years old. But it was wisdom and the old man's observation. When my dad was investigated for race fixing back in the early 1970s, I'm pretty sure he made the acquaintance of a pretty clever conditioner, a guy named Bob Snyder, who seemed like an unassuming farmer kind of guy, but was just gangbusters at getting long prices on his horses. And when Bob would give us the good word, it would usually pay off. I remember one night when he had a horse named Nobody But Nobody, And the horse just had just ugly past performances, eased up the track time after time. And Bob advised my dad to bet a couple of bucks. So we're standing there looking at the odds board. And I look at Bob, and I'm little Mr. Wise Guy at like 14 years old, and said, Bob, this horse hasn't hit the board in 6 months. And look at the price. He's 30 to 1. So clever Mr. Snyder looks at me and says, Marky, horses can't read the tote board. To cut right to the chase, nobody but nobody outgamed a really good horse, a win type Chiefster named Prove the Fact. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And what was about a 30-minute photo back before the photos went digital, and paid huge odds. And all were joyful in the Patterson household that night. Nobody but nobody was the horse's name. I'm not going to say I witnessed some kind of a major wagering coup, but horses do get set up. It happens a lot less frequently now than it used to back in the day, hopefully, but it does happen. Now, if I would have told that story on the Mountaineer feed, I would have gotten a call from somebody the next day reporting to be an authority in West Virginia racing, and they would have said, this happened to me one time. We're finally going to get your ass off the air for talking about fixed races. They wouldn't have cared that it happened 50 years ago. 50. That's half a century, my friends. I'm not sure the 10 horse is supposed to be 3 to 5. To beat the obvious speed and Forever Valiant here, I sense a tote correction is coming. I got to believe a tote correction is on the way here, nor have I seen any kind of a really potent wide bias in play thus far. I got to believe these odds are going to even out a little bit. And how unusual and befitting for Mountaineer would it be for the same outfit to win with a 30 to 1 shot and then a 3 to 5 shot on the same card? Again, only at the place the action peaks. No, my good man, Steve Majewski. Nobody can fire me now for betting on horse races. And shame on those scurrilous rumors that I used to bet on races when I was an official at Mountaineer. Far be it from me. Far, far be it from me. For the record, the only people who should not be able to bet on horse races are placing judges, stewards, the clerk of scales. As far as I'm concerned, you take other racing officials who can't possibly impact the outcome of a horse race and let them fire away if it helps to handle. And I can tell you exactly which officials can impact the result of a horse race. Might throw the identifier in there too. There's persona non grata when it comes to going to the betting windows. I've seen a couple of ringers in my time. I'm not sure they constituted any wagering coups. I thought there was a really good price at almost 3-1 on a horse that was the only speed against kind of a woeful field. And as I said beforehand, had serious doubts that Briarcliff was the favorite. I couldn't even stay close enough to reach out and grab Forever Valiant there and deep stretch at 5.8. So 760, pretty good price. Let's move ahead. You know how there's like one race on every card you just hate? You have seething contempt for it, makes your skin crawl. You just can't get a handle on it, and you dig a little bit deeper, and pretty soon you've burrowed yourself a 35-minute hole, and there's no getting out of it without getting invested enough intellectually to maybe bet on the race, but you know it's not going to lead anywhere good. This is that race for me, guys. Two-turn filly and mare races, the cheap fillies and mares, are the bane, and I'm not talking about the Batman villain and what was, for my money, the greatest superhero movie ever, The Dark Knight Rises. I liked it even better than The Dark Knight. But the bane of my existence, these cheap, highly restrictive conditions for fillies and mares going two turns. I hate these races. You know what I should have done? I should have said, smoke them if you got them, guys. You're on your own for the next 25 minutes, and went upstairs and grabbed a snack. My wife is cooking Little Bear's favorite meal, goulash. Not quite authentic Hungarian goulash, but she ain't bad at it. And I can smell it wafting down from upstairs right now. So I'll put some in the mic when I go upstairs and enjoy a late night meal. That's one of my problems. Although I have lost weight, guys. I have lost weight. And I have been able to keep my discipline as far as dieting goes. I don't believe in diets. See me killing time here instead of talking about the race. I don't believe in diets. I believe in eating habits, permanent eating habits you can live with. And I've only got a couple of rules. I eat one meal a day, and that's it. And then for snacks, chips, my weakness is chips, salty snacks, and I'll permit myself those kind of snacks, but only a sweet treat, which I seem to crave more in my advanced age than I did when I was younger, but every 3 days. And that's usually really late at night. And I will grab a cupcake or a piece of outright cake, maybe an apple turnover. My wife insists on bringing those into the house, or some kind of a Danish, and take it to bed with me into my room, and maybe watch The Lone Ranger as I eat my, I'm a man of simple taste. Little House on the Prairie, The Lone Ranger. I want some easy viewing to put me in a peaceful state of mind, a secure state of mind as I drift off to La La Land. So that's kind of how I roll on that. This is not winners in 12 months. This is a mile. These are fillies and mares. And I defy you to find anybody in here and explain to me why that horse is a great bet. I glanced at the Borton Stranded Gold as the chalk. This might be the only invader theory, you know, not a trainer that pops up here a lot, but a guy who is competent and sometimes gets streaky and can go on good rolls over in Ohio. Ivan Calderon. Plus, he's kind of a winning factor, I think, a little bit behind the scenes. How about some of those horses that Hobby Castillo has been winning with in Mountaineer? Like the thing he won 2 in a row with, going 6 furlongs, or 1 at 6 furlongs, then again at 5.5. And this guy shipped some of those horses, I think. Ivan Calderon. So it's been kind of a winning factor behind the scenes in some recent wins at Mountaineer. Stranded Gold. All 5 of the wins, not on dirt. Dirt record, not good. So I think after they got their hands on this horse and started her once at Thistledown, they figured out, you know what, when it comes to dirt, we're going to have to get this big girl someplace where it's easier to win. And they're thinking that place is Mountaineer. And this race certainly looks easy to win. And that's without even getting into the dirt performances. And you really can't dress them up and take them to town now, can you? Heard that song this afternoon, by the way, Kenny Rogers. Early Kenny Rogers. Ruby, don't take your love to town. I like to watch the gambler movies too. That's how easily entertained I am, guys. It don't take much. 2 minutes to post. Sweet Talia on the outside, 7-2. She could yet go chalked. She was a late moving winner, and her local bow wins by a head. So many of those horses appreciate the softest competition they've ever seen. Win first time out in a bad condition race at Mountaineer, then just kind of fade back into the scenery. Sweet Talia got her rest and has been coming around lately. That's a bad horse that beat her last time on July the 21st. But was that a wide closer's track? I think it might have been. Was that biased on July the 21st? During that time frame, there were some anti-rail surfaces in play. I think she was well out from the inside, squandered a 4-length lead again, not to a good horse. But that performance could win this. It truly could. But if you look at the rest of her off-track races, I don't think she's a big fan of wet footing. Has this course been downgraded or upgraded from sloppy to muddy? No, I guess it is not, huh? Do we see standing water? I think we're walking a fine line there, probably still sloppy. Amalfi Lady, I think merits mention based on those 2 straight seconds. After she had a tightener going 5/8, they stretch her out and snapping buttons would come back to win a starter or a straight allowance, I think. And then next time, Kaya's Song knows how to win. And that was a better race than this. So what happened? The bottom fell out of her since then. Boy, is this barn on fire right now. The hottest outfit on the grounds, nobody else even close. So that alone, I think, means Amalfi Lady merits a long, hard look here, huh? Stolen Kisses, number 3, 5-1 on that one. John Brown. His one trick this year has been to win with off-bench horses with, I think, Will Rogers' Downs forms of all things. Stolen Kisses gets back out at a longer race. I think they want to play into her speed. And she was in front at an early call at 7/8 and also at a mile. If you want to go back to 2025, they're folded up late but held second a couple of times. Boy, when Vingativa beats you, though, on dirt, oh, no. Please, no. Please, no. I really can't jump to her defense off those buyers either. Stolen Kisses. I don't feel a wager coming on. We're asked right now to accept 8-5 by mere virtue of being a new shooter at Mountaineer on Stranded Gold, who was money just one time from 6 dirt attempts. Can't do it. Won't do it. Not a good feel for this race. But if you can't say that about most horse races, you're never going to beat the races because horse races were not designed to be simple and easy to decipher. I know the percentage of winning favorites goes up, and up, somewhat because of field size and for some other reasons behind the scenes as well, which I'll get into some of that on the show. But never forget, especially you novices who might be watching tonight, that when you take maybe 5 tons of jittery, pent up, semi-violent horse flesh, load them into some metal contraption, board them with screaming, whip-slashing humans in tight quarters, and enlist them to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. All the jostling, all the bumping, all the screeching, all the screaming. This event does not necessarily lend itself to predictability, no matter what you've heard about the CAWs. See a comment from Lloyd Green, the guy who bets based on the board, about some kind of channel that has old black and white westerns. I like to watch Cheyenne and even Sugarfoot. I can go even more obscure than Cheyenne. Wanted, Dead or Alive, Bat Masterson, stuff like that. James Garner, when he played Maverick. So much killing for a Christian channel. I see where your avatar is, Doc Holliday from Tombstone. Great performance on the part of Val Kilmer. Is that one of your favorite Westerns? Behind the scenes, they say the movie's somewhat disjointed because there were like 3 different directors, and Kurt Russell ended up at the helm, acting in the movie and also at the helm. And it always kind of puzzles me when I see Kurt Russell quoted that it could have been so much better, the movie itself, had it had more of a clear vision. And I think that who's the guy? Who's the craggly old guy? Sam, what's his name? Who played one of the Earp brothers in that one. And he also said he was disappointed with the final product. But I think it just rocks. It's the best Tombstone iteration. I think one of the best Westerns I've ever seen. But the main characters, the actors who know a thing or two about filmmaking, expressed disappointment in the final product. I don't think the movie did have like 3 different directors. In response to the comment there, Wyatt was charged with murder after the OK Corral. It's pretty well known the OK Corral was not about law and justice. It was a personal feud about money, right? And who was going to control the money in Dodge City, the Earps or the clans, the cowboys or the cops, right? And I don't think history recalls Wyatt Earp. I know he's romanticized in the movies, but I think real historians consider him anything but a hero. Also, it's a known fact that he and Doc Holliday, contrary to the romanticized version, and virtually all the iterations of the OK Corral did not end on good terms. Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. I think Wyatt Earp went on to be a consultant in some of the Western movies. He lived a long time and became really good friends with Tom Mix, one of the first Western stars, who I think I read cried at Wyatt Earp's funeral. I don't know who's crying after that race. I don't know. Maybe you should have bet the race because the 6-horse should not have been favored there. But that was not a good chalk, and the winner probably should have been favored and ended up second chalk there and beats a really bad field. Just not a good field at all. A good West Virginia bred race coming up as a feature of the 7th, but a scratch decimated field is the custom for those West Virginia bred races. We used to fight the onslaught of scratches, and we knew it would come when we used West Virginia bred races when I was there. Try to anticipate them. The 6th race, 6 furlongs, never 4. This is something a little bit different for a $25,000 claiming price. And these are state restricted competitors. Prince Jeremy opened as a favorite. I think I saw Prince Jeremy was claimed by Dennis Cluley. He and Jamie Poole have haltered horses back and forth a little bit. Jamie Poole's the HBPA president. Dennis Cluley's pretty sharp horseman. 2 good horsemen there. Cluley, you got to know him though, in person. Just a snarly guy to deal with. Will snarl at you for nothing, for no reason. I have attempted to have civil conversations with him on the phone before when I was there, and he needed something or wanted a bitch about something, and I would vow to myself to punch his fucking lights out the first time I saw him in person, but then I'd cool off in like 10 seconds. You can't do that shit when you're the assistant racing secretary. You really can't. You got to have an even temper and not blow it. But he is a very good horseman, is Dennis Cluley. Prince Jeremy, it was kind of a, hey, Mom, look what I found win. I thought on May the 18th, when the speeds came back all of a sudden to Prince Jeremy. Prince Jeremy, I think, raised his game next time on May 31st when he is chasing a good horse named Zealous Storm and trying to get the lead and couldn't secure the lead from a fast foe there and still holds second. And so many times when the second fastest speed in a race still runs second, that's a good effort because more often they will be spent in a hapless chase or dispatched with by the dominant speed who goes off as the chalk. So I grade him highly for that effort. I tossed a turf race out. Cluley is turf obsessed, whether the pedigree warrants it or not. And then Prince Jeremy comes back in the next one and ran second at 8-1. Did squander what was a really good trip there, though, on July the 22nd. I think that was one of those tracks that was not good along the inside and had to drop on the leaders from better position than the winner enjoyed. The winner, not a bad horse, but a mare who beat Prince Jeremy. So I don't know if his stock went down there or not, but I will tell you this. His mama, Princess Janelle, was a win machine, and she had a world of early speed, 21 and change speed. So I kind of wonder if Sonny Boy here, Prince Jeremy, might be evolving into the same kind of horse because even though his most recent win was from 5 lengths behind, his better races, it seems like, are when he's pushed hard the whole way, like on April the 28th and also May 31st. So his fate might hinge on whether he can put away Spun's Kitten early. Spun's Kitten's a filly going against the boys and skips a condition here. She is a never 3 and she's in never 4, so I don't like her at all. But she kind of looks like the speed of this race, and how long she can carry that speed might be the determinant for whether or not Prince Jeremy smiles and says cheese in the aftermath of this race. Number 3, Dembe Zuma was claimed from John Carlisle. I've said before, Chris Carlisle's a Sharpie. Not the first guy I would claim from it. It sure hasn't worked out for these connections. Dembe Zumba did show some signs of coming around in a fast race against a far superior horse named Abundant Energy on June 21st, but did not come back to running into that effort, Dembe Zuma. I don't like his body of work. I don't like the change of hands, and could have predicted all that has not happened in the aftermath for Dembe Zumba. But you got a horse with largely 5 and 5.5 furlong past performances, and there's always a chance a horse like this is going to perk up and put his 2 cents in on the pace when you move him on out to 6 furlongs in a race like this. And he's getting bet too up there at 4-1. Park Avenue Prince, 10-1. 10-1 on Park Avenue Prince, who's been in with cheap West Virginia breds and certainly been found wanting. And then we come to Giacomo Casanova and Union Branch. I guess the two come from behind threats. On the far outside, Giacomo Casanova is more heavily supported here. I can look at his page and show you better competition than this. Tough beat to connect the dots. The big heavy boy, Anthony Ferrier special, who loves Mountaineer, and the race against veterans there. That was an optional claimer that included veterans for the 12-5 tag. Better competition than this to the veteran Black Candy. So Giacomo Casanova, I can point to races that would make him the one you want here, but I don't trust him because I don't think he has a lot of heart. He tends to hang at the moment of truth in a lot of his races. Switch over to G-Rod, Return to the Mountain, strong finishing jock. A guy that I like a lot. I consider him a personal friend. But he has not had much luck since returning to the place the action peaks. G-Rod, Guillermo Rodriguez, who was kind of tangentially involved in a haunted house story about my former domicile. And I'll tell it here on the show some night. It's a hell of a story. And he can confirm for you that my old place was indeed haunted to the hilt. Yeah, my man Kenny Neely, sharp handicapper, makes a good point. Prince Jeremy does not look like he's really fond of wet footing there. So that could certainly factor in when he's well bet there at 5-2. Ideally, he won't be taking any kickback here, but may not like the stuff underfoot. Union Branch on the outside. There's one in every race. I think he's the hardest horse to gauge in this field, and I'll tell you why. Union Branch had the benefit of a pro-rail bias, I think, a couple of times there when he pulled inside and did not do a lot about it. Did end up second there to My Brother Angel and third the time before. Those were inside favoring surfaces, so he was inflated, I think, ability-wise by that 53 buyer on June 2nd, but came back to sustain his kick on July the 5th, and this race might set up for that kind of style. And then on July the 22nd, he was kind of pinned inside horses and somewhat tentatively ridden, and gets a talented bug jock with a high percentage on board and is out clear of the kickback here, a horse who does seem to like wet footing. In fact, the two of his wins have been when the footing is off. What's the price on him? Plus, John Schiller has won so many of these races, and I think maybe he brought along Union Branch's little friend, Spun's Kitten, hopefully to ensure a swift pace. Might be just trying to get a race into the filly, but this could be deliberate. And she could be the rabbit here, skipping a condition and going against the guys. Having not run since last December, she might be in here as Union Branch's little helper. And he is 9-2. Spun's Kitten at just 7-2. Man, she hasn't run since 18 days before Christmas. She's a filly against the guys, although you sometimes see the mares beat the boys under the suffocating West Virginia bred restriction. You also see them do it on turf at the 440. But I don't like her here. Spun's kitten. I give her barnmate, who was higher on the board. A much better chance that I give Spun's kitten. So I can make a case here for Prince Jeremy, for Giacomo Casanova, and also for Union Branch. Of that trio, maybe Union Branch is the best value, but I'm not necessarily in any big hurry to back that notion up with real money because he hangs too often on his past performances there. Good luck in this one, guys. So the off-bench filly who skipped the condition outdueled Prince Jeremy there and won that race within a race. But the war goes to Dembe Zuma, who folded last time at 5.5, and I guess was ridden differently in here and gets his kick on going 6 panels there. Dembe Zuma got a great setup and could have told you Giacomo Casanova, the professional hanger, needs to go to Oz and get some kind of a heart because he just doesn't have much of that commodity. So not a surprise. It's kind of random, I think, when they speed fight like that. You got a filly who hadn't run since December and skips the condition and against the boys. She's probably not going to hold on. I think Kenny Neely, my man, made a good point that Prince Jeremy, not in love with wet footing. They could have factored in as well there, as he does take the short end of the speed fight stick there and ties for, I guess, some honor placing with Giacomo Casanova, who just can't finish what he starts. I can tell you that's a grudge race for Jamie Poole. He takes it very personally when somebody claims a horse from him. He's a competitor. And you better believe he wanted to beat his former horse, Prince Jeremy, in the worst way. Promise you that from my experiences behind the scenes at Mountaineer, where I worked for 36 years. So I know the players. I know their personalities for the most part. And now we come to the feature, an open allowance, NC allowance. I don't think they can fill a race like this unless it's state restricted for the West Virginia breds. In a case like this, and you know the story. They fill this race because the trainers really wanted to go put 2 in, and they only intend to run 1. It happens. It's really hard to combat. And a lot of times the racing office has no choice but to use this on the overnight anyways because it's hard to find warm bodies in modern thoroughbred racing. So really predictable. This race scratches down to 4. Had to happen. Could not have not happened. Happened a lot of times on my watch at Mountaineer. So I'm not condemning anybody and I'm not knocking anybody. It's common practice in modern thoroughbred racing. I will say the horsemen have a lot of clout now at the Mountaineer, a lot of clout and a lot of free reign. So Abundant Energy takes a heavy hit early and was 1-9. And I think now it's 3-5. Abundant Energy had a win streak broken. If we're going to toss out that Charlestown foray, which didn't work out, this horse was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, was 6 in a row. Going into the last one, meets his Waterloo at 4-5. Their Abundant Energy. I first came onto this horse at Mahoning, where he put up a huge number, a 74 buyer there, and West Virginia breds just don't do that at Mahoning. And then Abundant Energy transfers his game right over to Mountaineer and maintains his winning ways. He was under the gun, I think, for a couple of those wins. He was hard hustled to get early position at 5H from the 1 post, which kind of dictated an aggressive strategy on June the 21st. And the next time, it wasn't a bad trip because the opening stanza was not quick. But I'm not sure head and head for the lead is really how this guy wants to run. Abundant Energy. In his next one, and I don't want to start with the dog ate his homework, but this is not a horse that needs many excuses because he wins. He's a win factory. And when he loses that one, it's to a very good horse named Zealous Storm, who was a late scratch out of here. And Zealous Storm came back to win huge, to win impressively anyways. I think in that match race, they scratched down to 2 horses or something like that. Zealous Storm, and got claimed for $20,000. And Abundant Energy was back on his heels at the break and steadied a little bit and was playing defense. And Zealous Storm loves to win and had an early foot advantage on Abundant Energy. And that race was a fait accompli. By the time they baked into the turn, Abundant Energy can come from behind, has got a good post to do that, and may see some things transpiring to his left up ahead here that could set the stage for him, Abundant Energy. A hero's man at the age of 10. He doesn't beat horses like this anymore. You can look at the competition behind him, Reverend Jack and Timberry Tiddler and some of those horses. He's just not what he used to be. Heroes Man, and not as good these days as Abundant Energy, or even I would say You Bet a Fortune or Out of Sense. Heroes Man, but boy, does he have a part to play in here. Heroes Man still has a speed gear, still very, very quick. And I think it's incumbent upon him to go out and hound or top You Bet a Fortune, or else You Bet a Fortune, who hasn't made a celebrity appearance versus West Virginia breds forever. You Bet a Fortune is capable of beating Abundant Energy. Believe me, he can beat Abundant Energy if he deals with Heroes Man here. I think at some point he is going to dispatch Heroes Man, but at what cost and at what point would be the question. And I raised this earlier when it comes to You Bet a Fortune guys. You Bet a Fortune. Jaybird does this, was unveiled at Mountaineer, and then goes to Ohio and goes through some of his conditions. They didn't care that he's a West Virginia bred. He also likes synthetics and put up some huge races on the synthetics. You Bet a Fortune, but he is now in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 race losing streak. So we had this enviable, fantastic win record, and now it's been uglied up 6 starts in a row for You Bet a Fortune. So they come back to the friendlier confines of state restricted competition with You Bet a Fortune. I don't like the losing streak. And this is a speed horse. So when you run him 5/8 is game enough to come from a little bit behind. So I'm not in crazy wild wet monkey love with the late fold last time, although that was a far superior field to this. You Bet a Fortune was outfooted to the Phenom Midnight Show, who I think is 4 for 4, and has never not had the lead for Marshall Gonzi. So this is a drop in competition. And if push comes to shove, I would make him the speed superior to Heroes Man. But how long will it take him to do away with Heroes Man would be my question. Heroes Man got topped last time, but really didn't nail the break, the standing start like he can. I mean, sometimes he and Barrios can make it look like a false start. And if this horse lays 2.5 on You Bet a Fortune right from the get-go, then they can throw things in favor of Abundant Energy. You Bet a Fortune also, and nobody ever said handicapping was supposed to be simple, has been scratched from a spot that might have been suitable since his most recent race. Love Synthetics didn't do much about that on May the 26th. It did not run as well on June 28th as he did in that open allowance off the bench against the legendary Speed Kosher Cowboy. So just to kind of look at his past performances and to lay them out, I would make him the only horse in here with the ability to beat Abundant Energy, as he well may, if he is feeling a little more like his old self, if he appreciates the class relief coming back in against fellow West Virginia breds, which is an option they have not often availed themselves of with this horse. And that's Jay Bernardini on your monitor, walking at you with a great T-shirt. Unassuming guy, a lot of personality. Has got clients out the yin-yang, man. Has to turn clients away because everybody wants the personable Jay, who's a good horseman and a great manager of thoroughbred horses, to do their conditioning for them. He makes them feel involved and texts and talks to his clients, even if they don't have a horse in for a few days or for a few weeks. He makes it fun. And that's why I hooked Jaybird up with the folks that own Red, White, and Tacos. The Tunstals. Because they hadn't won a race in years. I knew Jaybird would win some races for him. I knew he had the connections to make some clever private buys for them. And above all, that he would make the game fun for them. Rival horsemen only wish they had Jaybird's support when it comes to clientele. I mean, there was a lot of speed in Heroes Man's last race, and that's why he got topped. Oh, if I can only watch the opening stanza here and then get my bet in. Excuse me, guys and gals. Out of sense, the two horses certainly made his bones. And there's another horse who did not visit the West Virginia ranks forever. They didn't have to because he was so competitive, like 12-5, open 15 claimers, allowance optionals outside the program. He is 10 years old now, though. And Joe Stokes, return to Joe Stokes here on Out of Sense. Joe Stokes is good from off the pace. Maybe he can coax this horse into sustaining his move. Always liked his career record notwithstanding. And I know his last couple of wins are both at 6 furlongs. I'm sorry, one of them is I always liked him just a little bit better at 5.5 to sustain that move. He's a former Runco horse who's always been versatile in terms of distance and has never fallen into the rut of being a stone cold closer, a sustained type, because he makes this good move around the turn, this very menacing move, and does most of his work around the far elbow. But some of that's ancient Roman history at 10 because he's not what he was. And even if some kind of a fatal fight ensues and Hero's Man takes 9-5, you bet a fortune to a nasty place called Speed Duel City, I am not at all certain Out of Sense still has the ability to rally with an abundant energy, who we know is going to trip cleanly out there. And we'll get first run on Out of Sense, I would say. I do consider abundant energy a slightly more probable winner than you bet a fortune here. But I'm not sure that I want to pull the trigger at the current disparity in price and take 4-5 on abundant energy. I'd have to see that price tick up just a little bit. Because right now, these two horses are situated at about what their fair chances probably are. You bet a fortune 9-5 and abundant energy at coin flip price. Now, if you want to go into the advanced class and really read between the lines, you might wonder, in the wake of abundant energies, a 4-5 defeat last time, why in the world he was put in for 12-5 off virtually 3 straight wins, impressive wins with big numbers, with some conditions laid out in front of him. Why in the world was he risked for that 12-5 on June the 1st? Is they maybe overstepped and tried to jam him down for less than he was worth and figure maybe that failed Charlestown stakes attempt had tarnished him enough. Well, that was not the case. They lost this horse and have to regret it at this point. But you wonder if there are no physical issues back at the barn with abundant energy, what he was in for the 12-5-4 to begin with. And if you were inclined to tie that in with a 4-5 loss last time, I wouldn't call you an idiot, but I do consider him a little bit more probable winner than you bet a fortune here, although I'll tell you more about that when they bank into the forward turn and I see what's transpiring in the speed fight that's a brewing between you bet a fortune and Hero's Man. Hate to deal strictly in minnows, guys, but I'm going to take what the defense gives me. And I thought that 6-5, 460 was a better value on that winner than the 3-2 was on You Bet a Fortune. You Bet a Fortune was indeed faster than Hero's Man, but not enough faster to get any kind of speed relief there, even though he came back in against his homies, fellow West Virginia breds. Plus, he's not what he was. And I alluded to this beforehand. Uncharacteristic 5 or 6 race losing streak for You Bet a Fortune, who even flopped on his beloved Tapeta start before last. So Abundant Energy, I thought they would avail themselves of the option to rate a little bit from the outside post, and the horse hasn't had that chance lately for various reasons. But instead, they were after it early and often, and maybe that was the way to go about it, because Out of Sense gets the inside trip. Peter Berry calls it the saloon passage. Is that what he calls it? Out of Sense, no excuse there, as Abundant Energy was never rated there. He was on the straight up chase to lean on those leaders all he could for the entire trip, even though they were kind of in battle there. So they ride him like he's a speed. Abundant Energy, and Out of Sense had every opportunity there in the late stages as those three just ding-donged. And you knew that he was going to come to them as if it were some kind of a tractor beam, the way the race played out. But he did falter just a little bit at the moment of truth. And I did say beforehand, I've always liked him a little bit better at 5.5 Out of Sense. So Abundant Energy adds to his considerable laurels. And what a good claim he's turned out to be, Abundant Energy. Paid $460. And I'm betting these minnows tonight. And I'm making some money, but hardly any life-changing scores, guys. I want some value. I want to find some long shots. I've been fortunate enough to put out a couple of long shots, several long shots in the last couple of weeks on this broadcast. But if it's not there, I'm not going to invent it. I will not recommend long shots or bet my money on long shots just for the sake of big prices. I got to like the horse or the situation, guys. Not going to bet chalks either, unless I think they're really rock solid. If you bet favorites simply because you deem them the likeliest winners, you're going to go broke and beg for street change to buy yourself a Big Mac at McDonald's on the way home. What's up with some of the things they drive now? Some of the street rated vehicles, I don't think it's legal, right? I saw some teenage kid, and you wouldn't believe this, with a Tipperillo in his mouth. And really, teenage might be exaggerating it, more like an adolescent. And it looked like he weighed about 300, this kid, who had not been absent when they served up the Lucky Charms and donuts. And he's riding a tricycle. I kid you not. No shit. Some kind of a tricycle with an engine in it. And he's on the road between Weirton, where my wife works, and I'm Mr. Chauffeur right now since her engine blew up. That's a whole nother story. And the speed limit's like about 55. I can't keep up with this kid. And I swear to Christ, he's on some kind of a souped up tricycle that he outweighs by about a factor of 10. So I says to Plan, her name's Jan, I call her Plan. I said to a Plan who doesn't trust my driving, so she sits in the back seat to make me look like some kind of a chauffeur. And I didn't have my phone with me, and I said, please, Plan, get a picture of this. It's going to be priceless. It would have went viral. So she's fumbling for her phone, and finally the kid turns off. Man, I wish I would have gotten that on video. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. 8th race, last one we got for tonight. No winners in 12 months, going a mile. So this is not exactly the creme de la creme. Number 9, Ember, is going to jump off the page for a lot of people because Ember was second to back, and this is the race that will drive the price down in a higher condition than this, a much higher condition to a much better field. Iraq, I think it just won a starter, and would come back to win going 6 furlongs, despite his come-off route profile. So Ember was in tough there on July the 8th. That's why it was 3-5 when he took the drop in conditions against much softer competition. And he just kind of flopped next time. Just kind of flopped around out there, did Ember. So now I'm wondering if this horse even likes a wet track when you compare his fast track wares and buyers to his wet track goods. Also, a runner like this who regressed last time is always going to be vulnerable to whoever goes out and gets the lead in a race like this, because you want to bet against a horse like Ember. You want to bet somebody that has something he doesn't. And in this case, that's early speed. I can't find much speed in this race. What about Dr. Jack Flyer, who used to be a good front runner? And even after Larry Reed, the octogenarian, laid his hands into Dr. Jack Flyer, the horse would win. First time right out of the box there in the mud. After that, it was downhill and then a couple of aborted comebacks, which I hate to see. He's away from August until November and then away from November again until June. And now we're talking about another 2 months on the sidelines. Something ain't right with this horse. He needs his repeated rest periods. But with that said, a pull up is not always the most ominous thing you can see in a horse's past performances. Not at all. And I will refer you to your 30-1 second race winner, Super Justified, as a case in point. It's almost something I've toyed with making an angle out of this level of racing. If you can slide some other factors into place, like a Rubik's Cube, I think you could probably make money betting on horses that pulled up last time if they meet other criteria. And certainly if the price is right. And Dr. Jack Flyer, oh man alive. The Dr. Jack Flyer that I used to know would stride right to the lead in this race and at least give himself an opportunity to convert. Would he not? Gold Buckle, 3-1 morning line. You got to be kidding me from the 10 post. Seems like I've watched him 200 times, both here and at Mahoning, where the same race is written. The lowly nominers in 12 months at a distance of ground, chopped. Ginger Dempsey keeps this steed around for whatever reason. He'll wake up one of these days. Your horses always do. Ambulante, no thank you. Tapio, no thank you. Drew Power, former Terry Crago horse. There's no life after Terry Crago for most horses because he's a really good trainer. And when he washes his hands on one, it's not a good thing. Happy, oddly enough, and I'm doing too much of a deep dive at this time of night on a really bad race like this, guys. Happy. And we're still in the paddock. And happy. Actually moved up on the transfer from Team Silva over to Belinda Sanders. That was not supposed to happen. And happy came back to be third. Tried to route first time out on the season. That's not easy to do. And then 6 furlongs didn't work out. And then last time was Aura Matched in some kind of a ratings handicap. I think sometimes horsemen just stick a toe into those ratings handicaps with bad horses that are certainly going to be outclassed, just to see what's going on, just to say, I participated. Hey, I can have me a piece of this newfangled concept too, baby. Because the mountain, if nothing else, is a classic monkey see, monkey do operation. Believe me. And I listened to it from the horsemen and management and fellow members of the racing crew, especially horsemen, for years and years and years and years. Hey, if other tracks have synthetics, we're good enough for synthetics too. Hey, if other tracks are riding this kind of race, then we're good enough to ride it too. Just a classic monkey see, monkey do operation. And that's not even a knock. It is just an observation. So you're going to get some horsemen that never win a race ever. And I'm not pointing anybody out, but I'm just telling you how they think behind the scenes. And when they see these ratings handicaps, somebody probably spotted one of them in another track's condition book and said, hey, we're good enough to have those too. And then at this point, some of the trainers that never hit the board on the backstretch are going to take woefully outclassed horses and stick a toe in those waters just to say, hey, I'm good enough to run in a ratings handicap too. I want to see what's going on. FOMO, fear of missing out. Dr. Jack Flyer, 30-1 morning line, and is 5-2 on the board. We saw 12-1 morning line shot yesterday, and not in an off-turf race. A race that was necessarily scratched to pieces, win at 3-5. And then I think we saw 20 or 30-1 morning line shot. And this race was taken off turf. Win at, I think, 3-5 or something like that. So this was never a good price point, 30-1 on Dr. Jack Flyer. Somebody just took a glance at the pull up and said, okay, and didn't incorporate the competition, the lack of opposing speed, and plus what this horse has done, Dr. Jack Flyer, with his name recognition in the greater Ohio Valley, I would term it. So I don't know if this is smart money necessarily, off the bench money, in the know on Dr. Jack Flyer as much as some of the wannabe wise guys. We're going to target him as a potential lone leader and factor in what the horse has done in the past. And we're always going to bet him way lower than that 30-1 morning line. Guys, you know what I mean? Can you feel me on that? I'm not going to bet the race. I feel fortunate to have grinded, and baby, I was grinding out a modest profit this evening, taking what the defense gives me with some little release passes out of the flat. So at this point, I hear the goulash beckoning. I smell it. I'm going to bid you guys fond adieu. We'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks for your attendance and, more importantly, participation at a place that we call the Dungeon. And hopefully you will come to love it the way I am coming to love it. And always remember, I belong in deep, dark, dank, subterranean places. Mark Patterson out.